and try to visualize what 1 looks like for you. I mean, each of us would imagine different fonts and different shapes and sizes, but imagine what number 1 looks like for you. Ensure that it forms a concrete image, no blurring image, no image which keeps fluctuating or changing, but something which is extremely concrete. Right? So, okay, let's try it now. Let's say close our eyes, relax, and imagine 1. And wait till you form a really concrete image of 1. No fluctuations or no changes to the image, so wait till that point. And be aware of what does 1 look like for you. Does it have a color? Does it have a feeling? Do you associate a certain sense of smell with it? Or is there a memory that comes back when you say 1 or when you see 1? And now let's go to 2. Number 2. What does 2 look like for us? How is it different from 1? Is there a different color, texture, size? For some of us, it may not even be the Arabic number 2. It may have been just 2 of something. It could have been 2 sticks. It could have been the Roman number 2. Anything at all. And let's jump to 3. Number 3. Okay, and let's slowly come back to the room and open our eyes. Okay. So did the images differ from 1, 2, and 3? Why? Okay. 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 So the images became clearer as you progressed. Okay, that's a very natural thing to happen. Okay, you tend to come back to 1. Yes, that happens, especially when we're trying to visualize something that we're attached to. In this case, of course, it was a very neutral number, but when we're trying to visualize something which has an emotional tag to it, yeah, we do tend to come back to something which may not be always pertinent, and that's something that we need to be aware of. Any other experiences that we want to share? Anybody who had trouble visualizing? Great. Now, when we're doing this process, if we wish to do a systematic upgrade of our visualizing capability, one thing that we can do is spend some time on this process. It doesn't take more than a few days, maybe 3-4 days, just focusing on imagining numbers till the time they are concrete the very first time. Like for some of us, 1 was a little blurry, then 2 was slightly better, 3 had a little more detail to it, probably there was shape, there was color, maybe there was a 3D effect to it. So practice that for a little while till the time you get it very clear the very first time. The reason why we start practicing with numbers, why is numeral visualization easy, is because numbers are fairly neutral. The moment we throw a word at ourselves, there is some association that happens. So that's why we always start with a neutral thing, which is numbers, and then after which we can progress on to other things. So first step, of course, is numeral, after which, once we are comfortable with this process of imagining numbers extremely clearly and instantly, then we can progress to simple objects. And usually it's always a good idea to see the object and not just throw a word at yourself, but see the object in front of you. And it could be a very simple thing, like, let's say, pencil. Yeah? Pencil or eraser or something that's at your work desk, maybe a blank sheet of paper or a book. Anything which doesn't have too much of detail, it's a good idea to look at it once for a while, maybe a minute or so, then close your eyes and start recreating what was there, recreating the pencil. So did it have two colors? Was it chipped at some point? How was the nib? How was the lead? All of those little details, because now we are moving on to just an abstract number to something which is physical, concrete. At the same time, simple, so that we don't get into too much of detail and we don't get stuck with the process. So that's the second step. After numeral, go on to a very simple object, pencil, coin, eraser, pen, anything of that sort, which has a very simple, not too many details. That again takes a couple of days of practice. After which we can move on to something which has a little more detail, like, let's say, a picture, maybe a photo frame of family members or yourself which is placed on your table, or a picture on the wall. Anything which has a little more detail. Again, the process of visualizing remains the same. We look at the object till the time we are quite familiar with it, after which we close our eyes and try to recall every little bit of detail. Let's say you have a picture against a backdrop of a tree. Ensure that you're also able to visualize what color were the leaves, were there two colors, was there, can you sense the moisture in the air, is there sunlight? Every little detail needs to come through when you close your eyes and visualize. So that's how you graduate from numbers to simple objects to a little more detailed objects. Once we are comfortable with that process, the idea behind this whole thing is to activate our mental muscles. It's as similar as physical muscles. The more exercise you give it, the more efficient and the more quick it is. So that's what we do through this process. Activate the muscles, make it a little more supple, so that the next process becomes simpler. So all this while we've been dealing with static images. Now we can slowly graduate to images which have life in them, in the sense that now from pictures, let's move to situations in life. So situations would mean, let's say, a particular beautiful sunset that you remember seeing at some place, or a situation where you were trying to get into a crowded local train, any kind of a situation. Ceremony, party, the first time you held your baby, anything of that sort, anything which has life in it, so that there is an emotional attachment which now slowly comes in. So far it was just static, neutral, away from us. Now we are involving ourselves in the process as we visualize. So that's where we slowly start infusing life into it. Of course, if you're using this technique for practice, be aware of what is it that you choose in terms of the scenes, because you may not really want to visualize something that's unpleasant. Although that's the first memory that normally comes up, but try and avoid it, because the more energy you lend to that visual, the more you're recreating it. So it's best avoidable. So that's the next part of it. After which we graduate further into the process, where we move away from just a scene, just one particular scenario, into a process. So some kind of a visualization where things change from one frame to another. It's like, instead of having one frame of a movie, you have multiple frames and there's movement happening. You're turning the reel. Right? So let's say a process of maybe walking from one end of the street to another, visualizing everything in detail, right from the buildings you see on the sides, the the roads, the texture of the roads, the potholes, the leaves fallen, people around, every kind of a detail. Now we're talking of a process, not one scene. Now the reason why this becomes slightly more challenging is because, firstly,